top of the other gives you the same effect. So you end up with something a little bit more like this. I'm sorry, not all my images are going to be facing correctly. From there, and I did the same thing with the Cassandra shield down there, built up the bulk of it with the insulation foam. I got some 2-inch sheet, glued it down there, and then sanded the dome down to shape. The rest of the details were added on top with more insulation foam after the fact.
Insulation foam, surprisingly, once you get that initial top layer of thin plastic up there, it stands really well. And then it's porous, so you just need to encapsulate it later, but it's just messy, so do it outside.
Now this piece isn't done yet. The filigree pieces on that I sculpted out of the material called epoxy sculpt that I mentioned earlier. But you can kind of see the difference here in blueprinting, the shape, the dimension, how things relate to each other, and how far off I was on my first attempt. Better planning, I have a much better shape. It's a lot more true to the original. Also, my new one only weighs about 3 pounds. And then that one is currently sitting about like this. I have the eagle painted on it, and I have some of the other filigree things done, but unfortunately it hasn't gotten much further.
The MDF, is it possible to perfect?
With the sander, you can't get it to go around the form, but you can sand down the edges. Getting wood to go to shape is something that you need a vacuum bagging setup for, and it's only possible with very specific types of plywood.
And it's typically only very large pieces like this curve right here in the building.
Right. And I mean, for what we do, tooling like that is a little bit more expensive and difficult to do.
Typically what you do with something like that is if you do need a very large curved piece, you just layer up several pieces of wood, glued together or whatever, and then you just start sanding them down and grinding them down until you do have that curve that you want. But it'll be heavy and it will be a lot of work and a lot of wasted wood.
You speak of glue, not your whole salary, what glues do you use that
For this, the best thing I found is actually Gorilla Glue makes an expanding glue, and yeah, for these blocks, that stuff is fantastic. And I will, when I started out Thomas, this is how this helmet right here started. Those are blocks of insulation foam scraps I had laying around, and then I just layered them all up, and the Gorilla Glue worked really well for that. You can also use wood glue on it, actually. It won't make as permanent a bond, so if you're making something that's just going to be from mold for like this, it'll work better. If you don't have any of the expanding stuff in hand. I made a Big Daddy costume a while ago that had these big lifts at the bottom of the feet. I think I had 6 inches of lift on there, so I had 3 sheets of the 2 layered up. And the Gorilla Glue held up fine. I wore it 2 days, 3 days at Dragon Con, walked down the street in it, no problems. You just have to, layer the crap and put a bunch of books or clamp it or something, so otherwise it's going to press all the pieces apart.
One of the things whenever you're using glues on this kind of thing, if you are going to be digging into it, you're going to be sanding into it. One of the problems you don't want to have is that you start getting a really good motion down, getting the foam sanded down, and it's starting to wear that down, but then the glue is stronger than the foam, so it's sticking out. So try to stay away from stuff like hot glue, although it is nice and quick. Once you actually start digging down in there, it will start sticking out, and it will be problematic later on.
Yeah, the Gorilla Glue also takes a little while to set it. You clamp it in here because once you put it in, it doesn't get as much access to the air. I sanded this the day after, and all of these seams in here were still wet. So after I sanded it, all the glue kept pushing out, and I had to sand it again the day afterwards. So give it a, they say 8-hour dry time. If it can't get to any air, it's really more like 72. So I think we're
clamping the foam, do not damage you, but you set weights in places.
yeah.
I don't have any pressure points, it'll be fine.
I think for this one, I put a sheet of MDF and then I layered bricks on top of it.
So that's kind of come to the end of this.
Are we at
Do you
time?
have one more question? Fine.
Oh, go ahead.
Do we have a panel after this? Did it get canceled?
Yeah.
Ours is 5:30, but striking all this is going to suck.
Do we have a one between? Does anybody know?
Yeah, the wonderful with J Pop was canceled.
I wanted to know, in the piece that you made with the PVC pipe,
Yes.
I mean, I could see that you had cut your pieces of wood to fit around the pipe, but how did you keep the pipe from coming out, did you glue the pipe to the wood?
Yeah,
Or did
actually-
you have some sort of fitting or something on the inside of that?
What I did was, let me see if I have an image of it. I had on the inside of this wood in the framework, let me see if I can find a shot of the inside of it. Basically what I did was I glued a PVC connector at the end of the barrel. So there's a flat piece of wood and a connector on the inside. And then when I slid the barrel in, I put PVC glue in and that cemented it in place.
Right, the connector was bigger than the piece that you had sticking out.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Whenever you are gluing in a barrel like that, one of the biggest problems I had building any gun is that a lot of times if you're just gluing it in there, it's like, oh, it's stuck, right? You know, I come back a couple hours later and realize, oh, it's shooting left now because it wasn't very well seated. You need to have something like that. You need to have actual hard pieces in there to hold it into place, and then glue that will keep it there.
Right.
But if you just glue it in there, it's gonna move over time. So
Yeah,
be careful with that.
this piece right here was friction fit fairly tight around these two, so it didn't wobble a whole lot. But on the inside here, before I put the pieces on, I put a PVC connector that was larger that it slid into, and then it was glued to at that point. This piece right here was just friction fit into there, and I glued the seam before I put it all together. I think we got time for it.
Well, the thing about your schedule, the next one actually starts at 4. You know,
What time is it?
like,
3:30. Oh, okay, so we have time.
and my question is about, let's say you want to make something like an RPG. I was on a budget, so I just, for like the ammunition, I just used a couple of party hats, and for the end, I just used some coffee filters wrapped in duct tape. What would you guys recommend for more uniform shape for that sort of thing?
PVC
PVC?
for the actual round part of the cone.
Both the cone and the back as
So party hats, I know what a lot of people use, especially for Boba Fett backpacks, the rocket he has in back. People get rat poison. They come in a cone thing of pellets, and you just get that cone, throw out the stuff inside, and there you're set. You have a pretty good, thick cardboard cone that you can hand over.
When I was building this gun, it's got a 2.5-inch wide barrel, and it's only about 5 inches deep. So if I'd have left it empty, if you look down the barrel of the gun, you would have seen raw wood, right? So I decided that something that would look good is if I had a shell inside that barrel. This right here is this little plastic cap that came with a spool of paper that I just find. I've got a tub of stuff under my workbench that's just, it's a tub labeled scrap plastic. There's all kinds of things like that. Interesting paint can caps, Easter eggs, little snow globe tops, stuff like that. And so I go and try and pirate things like that. What Bill was talking about earlier, wandering around the hardware store, just looking around at whatever you can kind of get your hands on, that's kind of the best thing to do. And if you can keep an archive of random junk like that, it's even better.
You have enough room to throw, you have a scrap bin that's the best thing.
There's another thing I wanted to mention. The ammo that I use for my RPG, it kind of has to stay in place, like with duct tape, because if I tilt it down, it would fall out. Is there a way I could figure out a fastening system to keep it in place, even when I tilt it down?
Put a screw in it.
Do you need to remove it? as
Well, if I for inspections, for security, I should remove all of
And if you can do a screw through the side of it, that would go through the actual round through the barrel.
Right, that would be difficult.
There's
I use magnets.
simple holding.
I get
I put a neodymium magnet at the back end of it, provided you can get your hand down there. Get a strong magnet that sits at the back of it, so when you drop it all the way down, it sticks. If you can't get access to that, Velcro pads would work well too.
Even mine RPG, there's sticks at the end of it too. It doesn't go inside, it actually is towards the end and it stops like that.
I mean, it's a complicated thing that I probably didn't see the piece you're talking about. If you had a stopper at the end of the RPG, putting a piece of Velcro or magnet or something in there to hold it in place, and that way you can just pry it out whenever necessary.
Yeah, if it's just gonna poke out at the end of the tube, magnets into the sides, near the end of the tube, just magnets into the side of your shell, that'd probably work.
Okay, I think we're being told we need to strike. So our next panel, we're going to cover a little bit more advanced stuff, mold making, vacuum forming. That's going to be at 5:30. So hopefully we'll see you guys then.